Vayiyu chayei Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shnei chayei Sarah. And Sarah's life was 100 years and 20 years and 70 and 7 years, the years of the life of Sarah. Now, since the pasuk just stated, Vayiyu chayei Sarah, and Sarah's life was such and such number of years, why does it end with a seemingly redundant phrase, Shnei chayei Sarah, the years of the life of Sarah? We already know that we're talking about the years of the life of Sarah. Explains Rashi that the Torah repeats the words, the years of Sarah's life, to make a statement about the quality of those years. As Rashi says, Kulam shavim l'tova, all the years of Sarah's life were equal and complete in goodness. This begs the question, was this really the case? Were all of Sarah's years equal? There were no bad years, no ups and downs? The 90 years of childlessness wasn't grueling? Being held captive for a night in Paro's palace wasn't devastating? Constantly traveling and moving wasn't difficult? The famine in Canaan wasn't challenging? What about the trouble she had with Hagar, as well as with her son Yishmael, who became a dangerous influence in the home? How can one say that all her years were equally good? To answer this question, the Rebbe points us to the Midrash, which is the source for the above-mentioned Rashi. Says the Midrash, Kishem shehem tmimim, kach shnoisam tmimim. Just like they were complete, likewise their years were complete. The word shnoisam, which means years, also means changes. You see, life is full of changes. Life is dynamic. Things happen. Incidents occur. We encounter stumbling blocks. And throughout those difficult times, Avram and Sarah remained steadfast to their core values. They responded to each situation with the same essential beliefs, the same convictions. They recognized that they were not merely spectators to life events, but it was up to them to respond in a particular godly way. The tmimus, completeness then, is the sum total of all that had transpired and how they responded to those events. This led to kulam shavim l'tova, all the years were good. In 1954, my father, Oliver Shalom, with 3 of his friends, went on Merkashlichus in Maryland to disseminate the Sifrei Chasidus, the books of Chasidus. Unfortunately, they were involved in a very serious accident. After a long period of recovery, first in the hospital, and then back home in Montreal, Canada, my father returned to Crown Heights. One of the Rebbe's secretaries told my father that the Rebbe would like to see him. My father came into the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe said, Ich hab poshet gewollt wissen, was du machst. Loosely translated, I simply wanted to know how you are feeling. But to my father, the words were not only the Rebbe expressing his tremendous care and concern, but it was also a call to action. Because you see, the words was machst du literally translate, what are you doing? Yes, you have gone through difficult times. You were in a terrible accident. The question is, what are your next steps? How will you move on from the situation? What will your attitude be? How will you continue to fulfill the mission for which you were created, to make this world a dwelling place for Hashem? Life is dynamic. Things happen. The question is how to respond to those incidents. This past year has been a very difficult one for all of us. We're living through an unprecedented pandemic. We are witnessing chaotic and upheaval, as the Rebbe would say, the Welt schaukelt sich. And a reasonable person could feel a little bit of hopelessness and despair. But that would not be what the Rebbe would want of us. That is not what the Rebbe taught or believed. That attitude would not allow for our lives and shlichus to be shavim l'teva. After the terrible shooting in Pittsburgh, a community rabbi wrote in a Facebook post, "I keep on thinking how the Lubavitcher Rebbe was the Rebbe Kiva of our generation, a beacon of faith and optimism with eyes that could see potential and opportunity where others could only see devastation and hopelessness." Fellow Shluchim, and all that are watching this grand event, we must remember that on one hand, the Rebbe asks us, "Vos machst du?" How are you managing? How are you coping? How are you feeling? The Rebbe sends each and every one of us a personal letter, yes, a personal letter to each and every one of us, showering us with brachas and guidance. But the Rebbe also challenges us, "Vos machst du?" What steps are we taking to further our shlichus? How are we reimagining our activities to fit the current circumstances? What core beliefs guide us during these times? How are we furthering our main shlichus, which is to hasten the coming of Mashiach? How are we ensuring that our lives are tmimim, complete, and shavim l'teva? Now, as we are all gathered here, it's an opportune time to call out in unison, Ad Mosai. The Eibishter will definitely listen to our pleas and grant us the coming of Mashiach. May it happen immediately.